Welcome to Everything Is For You, a podcast where we believe every experience shapes us, every challenge strengthens us, and every opportunity pushes us towards personal evolution. It's about seeing life's events as happening for us and not to us, and recognizing that the universe conspires in our favor, even in our darkest moments. In this episode, I return after a 5-month hiatus to share raw and honest truth about my journey, discussing the lessons I've learned, the importance of being and feeling authentic, and my commitment to healing, growth, and helping others, hopefully. We have we have alongside heartfelt conversations with a variety of people and covering a vast ocean of topics. So today, my guest is one of my dearest friends and somebody I used to call Dr. Jessica. She has been through so many of my challenges, and she's experienced a lot of my happy times in my life as well. She is not only one of my dearest friends, but she's one of my oldest friends since living in Los Angeles. Jessica is what I like to call a fellow seeker, someone who is always seeking knowledge, life experience, and is always moving towards authenticity and finding peace within. She is a wonderful, amazing writer. She's working on publishing her first book, and just an overall funny, smart, and wise soul. I'm very excited to share this space and the episode with her. Please welcome Jessica Pappas. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Kristin. That
I'm
was very lovely intro.
Well, it's very
And
true. It's very true. I'm very excited to have you on this episode of, my first one being back after a 5-month hiatus. And I just thought you would be a perfect guest to kind of go into this relaunch because we can deep dive into a lot of topics about growth, authenticity, challenges, healing, all of it. So I'm excited.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited and honored to be your relaunch pad.
All right. Well, let's dive in because I know we have a lot to cover, especially because you gave me your book earlier this week and I have been completely obsessed and devouring it. So now we have to talk about that too. So we've got a lot to cover, which is exciting. So
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Well, you know, I it was hard because I was like, I stopped doing the show in April, I think, and I was gonna do another, and then I was gonna do another, and every time I went to do it, I just something in me didn't feel the passion or I guess, to be honest, I think I was having like imposter syndrome. And I actually had to look up that word to make sure that I was using it correctly because I've never thought of myself that way. And I was just like, who am I to be doing this? Because I'm getting on here talking about healing and all of this, but I keep going back into different levels of healing and different levels of grief and finding new things that I didn't think that I thought were already healed that weren't healed. And I just felt like I don't know that who was I to get on this microphone and try to say anything, and that's how I was feeling. I was like, I had self-doubt. I lost confidence, and I haven't experienced that a lot in my life. And it's not to say that I'm like, I feel like overall I'm a confident human being and I don't have a lot of self doubt, but I have insecurities like most people, like everybody in the world. But confidence has never really been something I've struggled with. And I was struggling with that, which was interesting, you know?
Well, I think that's a very honest perspective to take on yourself. Um, the whole imposter syndrome thing. I mean, look, I just wrote a memoir. Who am I to write a memoir? I'm
Right.
who cares? So everyone has a story.
Yeah.
But the hope is that you become, you can people can relate to you, and
Mhm.
they may not have had the same experiences as you, but they feel you, and that can only come through, I think, if you're being honest with yourself and you are tapped into your authenticity. So when you started this podcast to help others heal, you were going through a healing thing. This is also leading you to healing.
Hmm.
So you've been on this road for your own healing, and that alone helps others.
Yeah.
And so you're giving voice to it, and that's brave. And,
Yeah.
so I think that it's good that you took that hiatus and reflected on that, because whether your confidence is, you know, um, maybe whatever, if your confidence is sort of waning for a time and suddenly you're like, I'm filled with self-doubt, and, you're thinking of yourself as not, um, the person to be spreading the healing
Hmm.
light, because who are you? That's exactly when you tap into your own healing. So
Hmm.
you were able to look how fast that happened.
Yeah, it was interesting because I also kind of relate it to, because everything you're saying, thank you, because that's helpful, but I also relate it to, as I'm getting older and I'm like doing more inside work. I feel like, I'm slowly I don't know the right terminology for this, but I'm like slowly killing the ego, and I don't know if I've completely had what they call an ego death, but I know that my ego is from when I was in my younger years, even my 30s, even my 40s, it's completely different. I feel like because I've been dealing with losing the ego, pushing the ego to an ego death. I feel like that has changed my perspective, and then I think I had some weird, who am I, who am I now, that I like that I'm more soft and humbled, and don't strive from ego anymore, that like, do I really have confidence? Am I really this person? But at the end of the day, I'm Kristin, the person that I have been since I was young, but and somebody that's just been consistently seeking growth. And and I've been finding it, and so I think that looking at the ego and how I interpret things and perceive things, and including myself, has changed drastically from 5 years ago, from a year ago, from a month ago. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
time is relevant, but yeah. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for
I
sure.
would like to take it back to the ego that you're trying to kill. Um
Not
or,
kill. Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ego death though
Yeah.
is, I mean, it is important that we, it to me, I don't know, I just guess when I'm hearing that, I'm hearing ego death, I'm hearing squash yourself to be reborn, kill yourself to be reborn. That's what I'm hearing. I know that's not what the ego death is, but I would think that making friends with your ego and working in partnership with your ego, because you're always going to have an ego.
Yeah.
And so your confidence, yes, it's great that you're going into it and feeling into the truth of like who you are. Is this just my ego needing success or needing accolades or whatever it is? And or, you know, is this who I really am? Well, I think your ego is saying, yes, this is who you really are. But
Hmm.
now you have to take this other part of you that you're not operating from and work with in tandem with
Hmm.
that ego, because you are a confident, inspiring person who is, has given me in my life of knowing you a huge amount of inspiration. You've made me look at my, you your confidence is real. I just want to make you really know that, because you have an innate trust in yourself of who you are. But I don't think that the ego death is necessary.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because it's a very complicated topic, because you read all of these different things and you hear this verbiage, and then I sometimes use like the incorrect verbiage of what I'm trying to express, because I think that I never think of killing the ego. I think that when they say ego death, it's kind of like you've learned how to. I think what that means is you've learned how to live in tandem with it. You know what I mean? Because um, it is about it's about being aware of what those feelings are, like you said. Am I like it's a very complicated topic. It's a very complicated topic, and all these words come into my head and I want to get them out, but they don't come out very easily. Because whenever I get hurt by something, or like some news comes in from, like, let's say my ex, for example, and I find out another thing that I was deceived on, or something that was in the past, and that comes out, then I feel this pain again, and then I look at it and I'm going, what is this? Is it still truly because I'm hurt from this? Is it my ego that like, is it my ego that's bruised from it? Like, what is it? And that's, I think, what I'm trying to determine when I'm
Right.
feeling these new hurts after very, like, we've been divorced now, or separated and divorced, almost 2 years. And when I find out new things on a timeline, it still stabs me. And so I look at it and I go, what is that? Is that ego? Is that what? Why have I not healed from those wounds? And they don't take me back the way that they used to. I don't spin, or I'm in a much healthier, very, I can cut it off now and be like, now I have more self, with that situation. I'm definitely like, nah, I'm done with that. So but you see it, you know what I'm talking about?
Uh,
It's like, yeah, yeah,
I Yeah, I mean, but I think that, yeah, I think it's very healthy to, when you're confronted with that stab, that knife that makes you go,
yeah,
and I think it's healthy to go, I feel over that. Why is that
yeah,
still hitting me like that? But I think that we carry a lot of our trauma and our pain and our hurt and our fear in ourselves. So we're healing, we're meditating, we're doing all this stuff to, overcome those things, but they still live in ourselves.
hmm,
And I think that we can be over something completely and still have a visceral reaction to it, because it takes you back to a feeling, and that's how powerful that feeling was when you were in it,
yeah.
or what, so again, it's like all honoring every aspect of your healing process and your process in general.
Yeah. It's so funny though, because okay, so now you're in this healing process, and then as you learn more, and I educate myself on growth and spiritual, authenticity. I don't know, but then you learn, okay, so there's truly only this present moment, right? This is it, right here, right now. We don't know if you are actually going to go to lunch today. We don't know anything, right? We know we have right now. So that, and the past is the past. The future doesn't exist. We can manifest what we want for the future. We can manifest our desires. We can manifest our dreams. We can think, okay, this is what I want in the future, but that's only what we can move towards. But we can really truly only live now. So if that's the case, then these past hurts, which then, and we're going to get, this is going to be a crazy conversation because that gets into your book and a lot of things, but all of the past, then it becomes a story, right? Now the past is a story, and the past is, even though there's other people in my story, it's still my perspective in my story, because somebody else experiencing it has their perspective and their story, and it's a completely different story. And
Right.
that's the fucking trippy part of it all, because it's like, I go back and I'm like, what was that past? Like, what is, like, and why does it take so long to get over that past and to not just be more present in the moment? And that goes, yeah, and that goes into lessons and life lessons and all of that. But yeah.
But yeah, and it also speaks to the power of now, which is like probably the most helpful self-help thing I've ever heard, because like that's what exactly what that does. Why did that take so long? Because you weren't in the now back then when you were going through it. You were in the expecting future of more of the same pain. Like you were constantly you. I'm saying
Yeah.
you, but
Yeah.
me, most people, when they're in a loop or in their story and that narrative is going and going and going, you're not in the now. It's impossible to be. It'd be like you and me are having a conversation. We're
Hmm.
having a conversation right now, and I'm thinking about something in the future to talk about that's not has anything to do. Then we miss this moment.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that power of now is like such a perfect, lesson
It
in.
is. It is. And it's even like, even down to this podcast. Like when I first was doing my previous episodes, I was focused on the structure and what was the next topic, but I was in it, but I was also thinking, like you just said, how do I move the topic? What I decided when coming back from this, yes, of course, I have to have a structure and a topics of things, but I've decided I know them, and now I'm organically going to flow with them instead of looking at a piece of paper on my computer waiting for the next topic so I know what it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
that's a perfect example of more being present in the now to let things flow. But yeah, I mean, we can go on forever about this stuff.
I know.
And we do, and we
And we
do.
do.
Yeah. But okay, so going back to who am I, right? And I don't mean this as Kristin. I mean this as like we all go in at some point in our lives. We say, "Oh, who am I?" So Basil, my also dear friend and business partner, um, he's doing this really interesting experiment right now on social media, on Instagram, and it's called the present you, and that's his account. I believe it's the present you. And I'll put the notes in the podcast in case I'm incorrect with that. But he recently, yesterday I believe, or the day before, he posted a video, and it's like, who am I? And he's saying that he's basically saying that is such an outdated question, because who am I is such a larger than life idea, right? That the question of who am I is so large that it literally stresses out the body, because like, how do you know?
Yeah.
It's not, it's especially when people are saying, what are you going to do when you graduate high school, when you graduate college? Like, who are you? What are you, and what he was basically the point he was trying to get across was, maybe just say, who am I right now?
Right. Right.
Because that's all it is right now. Because honestly, who I was 4 months ago, 5 months ago with the podcast is I feel different now. And it's only been
Yeah.
5 months. And so
Right.
there's these little versions of ourselves that are changing, constantly changing into something different, and which is beautiful. But so many of us stay in that space of who we thought we are, and then that's who we have to always be.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And then you come up with like, like you can't define that. Again, it's a now thing.
Hmm.
The now thing is changing. I mean, right now we're really good friends chatting. And then in 10 minutes from now, I could be, whatever I could be.
Well,
yeah,
hopefully
it's
you'll be two good friends chatting on this podcast in 10
oh yeah.
minutes from now.
So I don't I think so.
Yeah.
Um but but yeah, that yeah, who am I question. I don't yeah, I never I've always been more of a why am I here? What's my
Yes.
purpose?
Yes, you have. And your book is very much of that as well. And which we are definitely we're going to definitely get in there, but I want to like
If it's organic.
well, it's going to be organic because it's I'm so obsessed with this book right now. But you know, I think that the who am I thing is an important thing because even myself in the last 2 years since this divorce, it's like I have always identified myself for since in my 20s as a filmmaker, as a producer, as a writer, as a somebody in the film industry doing something, right? That's what I've been
Yes.
doing for a very very long time. And I've had some big jobs that have made me feel like that's who I am. That's what I do. And I think that so many of us in this lifetime, especially in this type of industry that we are in this entertainment industry, we get caught up in that is who we are. Just like they say, LA, you go to a party, people say, oh, what do you do? I don't think
Right.
that happens in other parts of the country or outside of the country a lot. I think people get to know each other first and then they find out their jobs like it's secondary. It's not in here, it's the first thing because people identify with their job as who they are. and
That's so
and I
true.
know I did, and I do not anymore. I don't know who I
Good.
am or what I'm doing.
That's great. That's so amazing.
And I'm just going with the flow, seeing what's going to hit next, and I'm just like, okay. It's a very different feeling, that's for sure. It's a very different feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that earlier today because I was thinking about my friend Kostas, who you've met in
Hmm.
Greece.
Yeah.
He has no idea what I do for a
Right.
living,
Right.
but he's like, we consider each other family.
Yeah.
He has not a clue what I do and could give a shit.
Yeah.
And, like that is that, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
it's also really interesting is like my family, my real like my blood family, they have never ever they know what I do for a living, but they have never asked me about anything ever. Like they've never asked, about like what it is that I like they don't know what I do because and I always thought it was weird. But then I
It
was
is.
like but it's not weird because it's like my sister's an office manager. Do they go and ask her what do you do in the daytime with your office manager job? No, because they don't care. And so I was
Right.
like what? They don't care? Like I'm on a movie set. Don't they think that that's but why would they give a shit?
Right.
Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It's like that's what
Yeah.
I like to do. So it's very
Right.
interesting because I feel like so many of us have, you know, thought that we who we are is what we do.
Yeah.
And so many of us
It,
don't because there's the other part of the world that doesn't, but it's just that's just how I have been brought up. So,
I think most of us in here have been brought up that way
yeah, Los
in this
Angeles, yeah.
country. And
Yeah.
I mean, even this
Oh,
country.
you're right. You're right. This country. Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Um
always striving to be, and then Los Angeles always felt to me like the place you go to figure that out. Like, who am I? But it always seems to be like the trying to be somebody, taking you away from your authenticity because you're becoming or trying to become, the cool thing or,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
It's interesting. Yeah, and
yes.
another thing that was also on my mind recently, and in which you like, it's part of why I mean, there's so many reasons why I'm really into your book. Like, you literally gave it to me this week, and I've been reading it every single minute that I can get, like on my lunch break. And if it was an audio book, which I'm glad it's not, because I'm really enjoying the words and reading it, I would have had it finished by now. But this book is it's so well written and it's so interesting, and then it gets into, so I've been thinking recently about memories and our
Mm.
stories, and the memories that you have when you're young. And I was just talking to somebody about this, and I don't even know who. But I have this one memory that I was drowning. I was like 5 years old, and we were at a pool in my neighborhood, and I know the house, and all the kids, we always swam there. And it was 4th of July, and I was drowning, but I really wasn't drowning, because when I went into I dove into the pool, I was so at peace. And I remember like being like, this is my home. And like,
Mhm.
and I just felt like so at peace. I just didn't want to come back up. And I was just down at the bottom of the deep end and just there. And I guess my memory is I was there for so long that somebody dove in, got me. I was like kind of blue. My lips were blue. And my mom was like, put a towel around me and was holding me. And I remember fireworks going off, but I remember going, no, I'm okay. Like I liked being in the pool. Like I felt like it was very home. But my mom says that never happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she's like, I don't remember that. But my mom doesn't remember a lot of things either. So the point of this story is memory. Like, what is our memory? What is our story that we tell ourselves from a young age to yesterday, right?
Right.
And because our memories do become these stories, our stories, and then they either change over time or they stay the same because we know them so well and we've said them and we've told them so many times that we're so good at telling them because they're great
You're right.
stories. But are they really true? And did they really happen the way that we think that they happened? And and if somebody else was a part of that experience, they don't remember it the same way. They remember it a different way, maybe, and their perspective. And so it's just so fucking fascinating that there's just all these different perspectives and stories that we all have. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it's true because it's our story, and whatever our story moving forward is what matters, because that is what is creating our life. Our thoughts, our stories now in our head are making our tomorrow, our next minute. So anyways,
Right.
I thought that was it's very interesting, which goes into your book, you know.
It's very interesting because I wrote my book, and 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 I wrote it very the first draft of that was just, I had to structure it, but all the scenes that make it up were just basically, stream of consciousness writing, and then chipping away. Like, why is this something that I feel is so embedded in my memory?
Hmm.
And so, by having written it, I feel very, the same, like with that, like, why is this memory? And then, so I finished this book after, and it took a long time. And whatever made it in there, made it in there, and whatever didn't. And for whatever reason, those things that made it in were things that would, even if it didn't happen, my dad's reading it. He says, no, Jessica, this did not happen this way. Like, you're very wrong on some facts. And I'm like, but it's my facts, it's
Yeah.
my perspective.
Hmm.
Um, but so it's already like the memory thing is a thing. But after I finished writing it, my point was what, and then I went to Evanston with Allison,
Hmm.
and as I was in Evanston, I was being flooded with so much loving memory, so many loving memories, like happy memories that are not in the book,
Hmm.
like, so why was my whole life story narrative on those things that were somewhat, why couldn't I have focused now? And then I have a sister, Michelle, who, she's not going to have every memory the same, but all of hers are all the happy things. Like,
Hmm.
she'll read my book and be like, "What? Where did you grow up?" Like, totally different experience.
Hmm.
And that's like, that's what her consciousness clung to,
Mhm.
subconscious clung to. That her memories, she wanted a happy life.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn why I was so miserable.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn why I hated myself. Why, like, so the memories that served that purpose stuck with me until I
Right.
could get over that hump, you know?
Right. Which yeah, I mean, the book, and again, I'm only on page 75, and I have, so I'm not even halfway through. I'm almost, I guess I'm close to halfway through. Um but it's so honest. Like, it's it's incredibly uncomfortable at times. It's incredibly deep and funny, and also it's just, it really is so honest. It's like, when it's hard to explain, but it's such a, I'm so enthralled in like every single thing that's happening next. I'm like, what's going to happen? Geez, and but you're so honest with how you felt unseen, how you felt invisible a lot in your childhood. And I think that obviously that has, that stemmed into your desire to explore growth and learning, because you've, since a young child, you have been wanting to know your purpose, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. Why am I here? There's got to be something more to this than just getting through a day or survival, surviving another day in my skin when I can't find the light in me,
Hmm.
like, so yeah, it's yeah, the memory thing is just so
It's, yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but I did just the book. I mean, that was something I had to do. Like, and I've always had to do it. I started writing that book when I was, as soon as I could write, by writing my dreams, because I was always analyzing my dreams, my sleeping dreams,
Hmm.
and um, and I would write these long stories, and I was very aware of my fear, and also my need to, like, you probably, well, I think you did, read the part where my mom leaves, and she says she has to go find herself.
Yeah.
Well, it became at that young age that's, I will never lose myself. So I had to take her desire to find herself, which, and make that my own.
Hmm.
Because if my mom is going to leave at this, point in her life to find herself, I'm not going to get to that age and not. So I started looking to find myself. Um, and I could never find anything good,
Hmm.
So anyway, I
Well,
got
I
off
found a
off
lot of
point.
things good about you.
Thanks.
And so many others, and I know that that's changed as you've grown up and you've grown through things, but, and I wonder, it's like, is that the lesson that we're here to figure out on this lifetime? So if we believe that we're here for lessons to achieve and to learn, to like kind of graduate to the next level, let's say, then what is it? What is my lesson? Like, that's like, I've been figuring out a lot of lessons along the way, but what is that? Because I know there's like a couple real big ones that I have not gotten yet, because I keep repeating the same shit over and over. So I know that I have not tackled it, and I think I'm getting better at them, and I'm handling things better than I ever have. But what is it that, when is it, or how do we find that lesson to actually be able to really learn? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I think you're they're finding you.
Yeah.
The lessons find you, and it's just you being aware of them when they find you. So it can be as simple as going back to that thing, that pang, that stab, when you could even hear, like, I could hear something, um that has nothing to do with me or anyone I know, and it's some, like, weird thing, but it gives me a pang of, like, ugh, like, I don't want that to, like, I'm like, I have a visceral reaction as if it's me,
Hmm.
and it's because it's in my cells, memory, or whatever. But so in those moments, we have that opportunity to go, there's my lesson. I know my lesson. I know my general lesson, but I kind of believe, not just kind of, I think we all, our lessons come at us in different ways, but I think our biggest lesson for all of us is to love and
Mm-hmm.
authentic, be our authentic selves,
Mm-hmm.
and love authentically and unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
and um learn to not judge, and like it,
Yeah.
just to, like, I think it's about love, and it's not really that complicated. It's just the ways in which we choose to learn them,
Yeah.
that makes it. So I stayed in a relationship for 11 years that was, you haven't gotten there yet, but
No, but
like
I was part of. I knew you then, so
yes, I know you knew me
yeah,
then,
yeah.
but like what made me stay there?
Hmm.
All, like, I'm not an idiot. I know
Yeah.
what was going on. So
Mhm.
but so I think that, like, the
Well,
when am I gonna,
yeah, that is that you did stay in a relationship that wasn't healthy for a very long time,
to
and
learn,
yeah,
to really tear me tear the skin off of me. It was so, like, necessary. I was so defiant to, I am going to get to the bottom of this love myself bullshit, and like, you can just beat me and whatever, do whatever you want until and I will rise from the ashes eventually.
yes,
But that was like absolute utter stubbornness.
yeah. I think I think that for me, I know that one of the lessons that I deal with is letting go, and I have a hard time letting somebody I love go. And even though I know that it's not really letting them, like, I don't have them, I like, they're not mine. It's like,
Right.
but just it's that space, it's hard for me to not understand, like, how, like, care for someone and then just be like, oh well, now it's just like, oh, like, it's done. Like, how do you do that? I'm much better, as you know, because you were with me in my 20s and 30s when I was dealing with that stuff, and I was horrible. I was in a loop, just repeating and repeating myself.
I
And now I have the wisdom, at least, or the knowledge to understand it. I understand it. It doesn't mean that I know how to do it, though.
right.
You know what I mean?
I
Which I
I
have done.
totally know.
Yeah.
I totally know what you mean, and you have. And I would like to point out an important thing, I think, in this, to this session here, um, is that as much as you called me Dr. Jessica, look at when you were calling me Dr. Jessica, what I was in the middle of. And at the same time, you're in the middle of your looping and, you know, whatever. You're helping me. You could step out of all of that and get over it. You're like, what are you doing? Like, you were the voice of, like, no, um like, no hold bar, stop this bullshit. Like, you
Hmm.
were that person who would say that. Like, so, but meanwhile, you're having an experience and I'm having an
Yeah.
experience and I'm helping. Like, it's just interesting how abusive we are to ourselves, yet we can see clearly when it's the other.
I mean, gee whiz. I just
uh,
look at things and I'm like, whoa. And then what is the fear of releasing that? What is the fear of letting that go? Let's call it letting go. Like, I with my ex, I wanted to be friends, and it was just built on deception. So, but I was like, forgiving and kind, and like, it's okay. People make mistakes. People, like, da, da, da. But it's like, why, now I'm looking at it going, girl, why did it take you so long to treat yourself with some fucking respect? Do you know what I mean? Like, why, like, what, like, now I go, no, no, like, I'm, I don't deserve any of that. No, but it took a
right.
minute. It took a minute. I mean, this definitely, I am very proud of myself with the way that I have grown and changed and healed in this particular breakup. This one was the healthiest one I've ever done, and I hope the next time I fall in love, may I don't know if I believe in forever anymore, so that's another thing. But next one is, I just being a better version of myself every minute. So
And being in the now, and I
yeah,
can attest to that, because you know the why did it take me so long to have a little self-respect? You did that pretty fast, and you did it right away. It happened. You allowed yourself to collapse and crumble and fall apart, and then you said, but the whole time you were doing that, you were like, I am going to use this as an opportunity to heal.
yeah,
And you did. And you did it pretty quick, if you ask me. I
well,
mean, like, you didn't stay in that loop
right,
very long.
no, no,
And so you should be proud of yourself. You
thanks.
have come a long, long way.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have. And and now, I think that's so interesting. I think that all of this stuff, these topics that we're talking about, and I think that, you know I think that it's interesting. Our generation grew up with not understanding self-love very much. I don't think that that was part of my vocabulary until much in adulthood. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even,
Yeah.
it wasn't something like, oh, you love yourself. Like, it wasn't. I think that there was a lot of people that were like, let's say something like, "Oh, you love yourself so much." People are like, "No, I don't. No, I don't." And it was like, why? Like, don't say that.
Right.
It's so crazy because now, if you said that to a teenager, they'd be like, "Absolutely, I love myself."
Yeah.
We grew up very
Right.
in a different way of thinking. Our parents didn't show most people. I'm saying a majority of like the Gen X people, there was a lot of being home alone, divorced parents that worked all the time. It was a very different time. And it took, the seekers to really like kind of find their way of compassion and change and getting out of toxicity, getting out of toxic living. Because I know that
Right.
I grew up in toxic environments, and if I said that to my parent, like my mom or something, she'd be like, "What? It wasn't you? You didn't grow up in a toxic environment." I'm like, okay, but it's very interesting because, and that's, it's exciting to see that this next gen, and I'm always going to talk about the next generation on probably every single podcast, because this next generation I'm so excited about, because they are the children of our generation, and of some
Right.
millennials, and they're just loved in such a different way, and they just understand. They're so much more advanced than we were at such a younger age, and they're much more innocent, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. It's so beautiful. I mean, there was I was talking to another friend, and she was talking to a college student, and this college student was asking for some advice because of a friend. And she said, I think she's like always been looking at one corner of the room and never like backed up and looked at the whole room. And I was
Right.
like, wow,
Oh,
that's just such a
interesting.
really it's so such a smart way to like perceive a situation, like something that she doesn't understand. And also, I think that if you look at that, that's most of society, is kind
Right.
of looking at the corner and not backing up and looking at the whole view.
So
It's
true. That's so
very,
true.
hmm,
I mean,
yeah,
that narrowed vision.
yeah,
I mean, like that. Oh God.
yeah.
I
I
don't.
mean, that's
It's
a whole.
almost like painful to think about
It's a
again.
whole nother, it's a that's a whole nother topic that we don't have to get into. but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, look, I think that I'm very excited to finish your book, and I know that you're in the process of still, like, giving its title and in the publishing process. But when it is published, which it will, I mean, I cannot wait to see who's smart enough to publish this, because
You're
it's
the
not only going to
best.
be an amazing book, it's also going to end up into being like an unlimited series or a movie, or because this is so good. And I hope that if that happens, that I hope that you and I get to produce it, because that would be the best thing ever, because this thing is
That
so good.
I
But
did have a dream the other night, by the way, that you were producing my thing, and you had it, and you gave it to this guy and I was like, my book? And you were like, yeah. And this was before you said that. And I was like, in my dream, I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, no, my friend Ray Record from Netflix is doing it. And Allison has a friend named Ray Record, and he's a producer. And it
oh
was just weird that you used his. I was so confused in the dream, but that's funny that you're saying that now.
yeah,
I
no,
can't see that, but
I really believe in this book. I can't wait for the world to be able to get its hands on it. So when it does get released, we are going to come back on and we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to tell everybody to go get it, because it has to, it's such a good read. And I don't know, the audience doesn't know this, but I'm just not the best reader in the world, and I'm very slow. And it also takes me something really amazing to want to sit and read all the time. I'd rather listen to it, but now I'm just like, it's so good.
there
So, yeah.
there
Um,
was there was nothing better than that phone call. I know it's a little soon. I'm only on page 3.
was it page 3 when I did it?
That was when you first called. I was like, that's great.
Was it page 3 that I did that?
That's what
That's
you
funny.
said.
Wow, that's hilarious. But I mean, it got me from the minute I just was like, I opened it up because I was like in the middle of working, and I opened it up and I was like, oh, I got to get this on my iPad. Oh, okay. And I just like haven't stopped since. So it caught me. So any agent that's going to read it is going to think, if they're smart, they're going to
Oh
grab this.
man.
But whoever does,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, well, look, I think that I think you should definitely we should do another podcast and discuss some other amazing topics. But I think this has been really joyful and fun, and I can't wait to listen back and see what kind of pieces that are out there that would be but might resonate with other people.
I'm just happy you came back,
Well,
because
thank you.
you were just getting started, and then you disappeared, and then I'm very happy for your return.
Thank you.
I'm
And I
also happy for your healing.
thank you. And I'm really excited. Like I've got a bunch of guests lined up, and I'm gonna put some energy and time into this, because it does feel really good, and it is fun. And I
That's
just want to do things that feel good and that are fun.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
what we should be doing. That's how
Yeah.
we should be asking, not what, like, yeah, who am I right now? I'm the person who wants to do things that are fun and make me feel good. That's
Yeah. And
who I
it's
am right now.
it
Right.
yeah, that's really good. And it's so funny because I've actually thought so many times, I sit down and I go, I have been working so much of my life and being so passionate in my industry of like and determined to, like, whatever you call make it, whatever that is, just or at least like have a profession. And that's like, that I don't even know. Like I was like, what besides that work that I used to do, what is it that I enjoy? Do I like to paint? Yeah, sometimes. Do I like to do this? So
Okay,
I've been
I didn't
trying to
know that.
yeah, but I've been trying to find like new hobbies and new things that excite me, because that I'm really moving towards, that like I want to find the things that spark my creativity, that spark my inspiration, that and I think this does, because I'm really interested in these topics. I'm really interested in people's perspectives of growth, healing, going through challenges and creating new version of themselves, and all of that. I'm very interested in that. So being able to have these kind of conversations with others is awesome, and I'm really grateful. So
Well, I'm grateful. And I just want to say one other thing about you that's so great. And I've said it to you a lot, but you're the one person, everybody I've ever met in my entire life who says what you're going to do, does what you say you're going to do, even if it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm like, but she'll do it. So I'd be like, uh-huh, okay, all right, yeah, I'll be hearing about that soon. But and that is so inspiring. So now what you're bringing into your world, it's the same thing. So imagine
Yeah.
Imagine the help that you're going to bring others, because you're not an imposter, because you're the real deal. And so that is also intriguing to me, that that feels good to you. Like that's something that's
Mhm.
bringing you joy, because it's bringing you back to this podcast every
Yeah.
day.
Mhm.
So it's not just about you, you're being of service to others. And I just like, you can do, you're the one person I know can and will do anything you want.
Oh,
Anything.
well, thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. That very much warms my heart. And yeah, I definitely and even my really weird ideas, they might not be long lived, but I'll do them for a
That doesn't
minute.
matter. You will make it happen.
Oh man, man. Well, I'm so excited for you. I mean, you should be so proud. It took you a long time, and I know that you had, you've struggled with getting that book done, but you did
It was
it.
a struggle.
You
Thank
did
you.
it, and it's so fucking good. And so I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to, yeah. So I can't wait to finish it and have that conversation with you. Oh, there was one funny thing that I read. I made a note. Let me look at it was oh, when you filled out an application and you filled out an application to a bar or whatever, and you put relationship, it was your sister, and they put relationship, and you went good. And the guy interviewing you is like, good. He meant like, is it your sister? Is it your friend? And you're like, relationship, good. My relationship with Michelle, it's good. It's good.
It's very good. Very
I
good.
thought that
We're
was
like, we're
really,
tight.
really, was that really happened?
Yes, that really happened. That was Jim, my boss
Yeah.
boyfriend,
Yeah,
who became
that's
my
funny.
boyfriend.
And I
And he actually, funnily enough, has not read the book, but he did just come recently texted me. He's like, I was just with Joe talking about, something, his brother, and we just started laughing out loud because they were talking about that. Like,
That's so funny.
yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, I love you so much.
I love you too.
You're awesome, and I can't wait to go back to Greece with you. And
Yes. I can't wait to go back
and
too with you.
yeah, but thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a part of this. And
Thank you.
yeah, I love
Thank
you.
you for
And
having me. I love
yeah,
you, and I'm still with you every
all right.
step of the way. We
I
got a
know we've been
long
friends for
30 more
what?
years to go.
And it's been 30 years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Something like that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. Well,
Uh,
you know what I was gonna do? I was gonna do this question thing, but I guess I didn't prepare for it. So
oh,
um, I'll have to do it
okay.
next time.
Okay. What- Whatever you say.
Going with the flow. Going with the
Going with
flow.
the flow. I'm in the
Um,
moment.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, look, it's 55 minutes. What a great time. Well, it might not be by the time I edit it, but we'll see.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
all right. All right.
All
Bye,
right. Love
Jess.
you.
Love you.
Bye.